Start recording. Okay, cool. So, there is an example. Yeah, this example right here that you already found on how to do a socket, right? And there is a problem already, I believe.
Okay.
You see, oh, there are no line numbers in there. It sucks. But do you see the? Wait. Where is it sending stuff? Where is the server sending shit?
Let me focus on what you guys are doing today. Kind
Where
of
is the
confused
server
Oh,
here.
sending?
only the client is sending shit. I see. Oh, I guess the server is a preoccupation of Magito. We don't actually care. We are the client in this case.
So you
We are the
guys want to
client.
make a socket server, like
Yeah,
to receive and send?
yeah. Because the thing is that in the runtime, so it needs to be done in Erlang. That's why. But in the
Oh,
runtime
okay.
of the Micron kernel, after we encounter some particular Sakura nodes, we need to actually do something via the network.
I see.
So
It
so
needs
we
to be
have
in Erlang because of the runtime, right?
yeah, and we have
So
to learn how to do that. Um,
Yeah, this doesn't look too bad.
yeah, but you see the thing. You see the sock binding there.
Yeah.
We need to keep passing that all the way to the goals, right? To the microkernel goals.
Well, that is correct.
Yeah, but here's the problem. How are we gonna have? How are we gonna do that?
Well, we're already passing an environment around. We can just stick it in the environment.
That's actually a good idea. But that means that bootstrapping the environment needs to happen way before everything, right?
Well, it happens at the beginning of the program, so
Okay, let's do that then. Just copy this code of the client and let's just do that. Maybe it is that easy.
gen TCP. Okay.
Okay, where this is gonna live? That's actually a good question. I maybe Sakura.url, maybe.
Sakura.url.
And because we have a function that initializes in Karuta.url, we have a function that initializes the environment. We need to put it in there. Yeah, we need to put it in there. So do we have a function that starts the environment? We either delete it because it was kind of cringe, or it is in here.
Call with fresh, net, take all. Actually, I think bind, blah blah blah. I'm pretty sure run lazy string map. Call with fresh. Yeah, it's been a while. I don't remember.
No, just go scroll and read the code and check what
Query
seems to be doing
variable,
the bootstrap.
deref, discard, fresh.
It's probably fresh then.
It isn't.
It isn't fresh. So what is creating the beginning of the environment? Which, by the way, we are calling it bindings, which is now we're gonna have to rename that
Why?
because now it's just environment. It's not bindings. It's gonna contain more stuff, not only related to bindings.
Hmm.
Oh,
Deref
there it is. There it is.
query.
There it is. Isn't it
Where?
83 or something? There is an empty map there.
No, that's a default return value for get in case the key is not found.
Okay. There's also 79, by the way, but I don't think that's the one.
No, it isn't. I think we're just um, unify the reference.
Start.
No, this takes a go and oh yeah, no, this applies it to an empty. Yeah, this applies it the go to the empty. environment, which is an empty map.
No, but is this the one that bootstraps it?
It should be. Actually, let me think for a second. Are we actually using this anywhere? Start. Uh,
There
not
is
the
in there
parser.
is in OCaml some things about it. Yeah, that one in the second line. It isn't here.
OCaml LSP is so silly. Location. I should probably get rid of this crash dump.
You should.
I'm pretty sure we're done with this.
Yeah.
So
And I don't know why that was ever useful, but cool.
location, microcontent.
This isn't a temporary file. We are also not using this at all.
We were calling this kind of manually, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's in the start, man. Which means that you can paste the body, the client code in there, and let's try to see what needs to become an argument.
Run lazy.
Yeah, this run lazy also have to receive more arguments. I think you're right. I think we were doing it manually before.
Okay. Well, in that case, let's go to start. And here we take the initial goal, which is supposed to be the
Probably a take all.
no, not a take all. It takes the initial goal. That is, it takes the return value of calling the query, basically.
Yeah, but the query is going to be wrapped in a take all, I believe.
Not necessarily.
No, yeah, not necessarily, but in all the cases that we were testing, it was the case. Yeah, just paste the code here in the body of this start function, and let's put whatever is required to bootstrap a TCP as an argument. And there's another problem, which is we're gonna have to parse the S expressions in Erlang, aren't we?
I don't see the problem.
Well, I don't think it's a problem, just that probably it's gonna suck in comparison to OCaml, but sure.
Why would it?
Yeah, that's my expectation at least.
Okay, so we need the address, I guess.
Yeah, all of these things, I'm starting to think that they should be a map, as like in like closure style. So you put all the configuration in a config map, and you destructure as you go. No, you can already do pattern matching on the config to destructure the shit.
Well, I guess that's true.
So I think it's arrows in this case. So we need an address. So let's do that. It's fat arrows, I think, for pattern matching on maps.
That's okay, but we kind of want to handle the case where there's no database configured as well.
Well, this means that we just need multiple clauses of start slash true, you know? One pattern match with an empty map, and in that case we just do what we're currently doing. And another case where the map is not empty and there's stuff into it. Probably line 157 needs to be a semicolon, by the way.
Okay,
Yeah, so we can
so
already do this structuring here. So it's not arrow, it's actually column equals.
so if we have a port,
We just needed an address.
and Let's give it a better name. If we have a DB port and we have a DB address,
Maybe it should be called Sakura port.
should it?
I think it's more descriptive, but that's on me. We need an address, for sure. And yeah, minimal client example, that's what I'm talking. And I think that's it, isn't it? And there should be a third case that should throw some sort of exception, because if you're sending a map that is not empty and it doesn't have these two keys, we should blow up.
You do realize that the empty map matches any map, right?
Wait, what? Really? In Erlang, the empty map pattern matching maps with anything?
Yeah, this is backwards. This should be after.
That's terrible. Yeah. But okay. Okay, so now let's grab the code of the client and paste it in here.
It's not terrible. It's because if there are keys that you don't know about, you don't necessarily want to blow up.
No, but then the notation should be different. I am specifically saying empty map in the pattern match.
Then you need a separate syntax for matching maps normally and matching them.
No, you don't have it. You don't need the extra syntax. You just use a binding. You just give it a name, or you put underscore.
That's different, Lemos, because if you bind with an empty map, you're saying this may have keys I don't care about, but this must be a map. That's different from just giving it a name. That matches anything.
No, that's not when you have the guard of isMap. You don't have to create any syntax for this. Just seems like a bad decision.
Okay, what happens if you want in one place to match it ignoring extra keys and in another you want to match exactly? Then what?
Then you have to do the cases of exactly is the ones that we just did, right? And the cases of doing it more, you will not be able to do the pattern matching on the function head.
Then you don't have pattern matching for matching loosely.
No, you do have the pattern matching, but it's going to have to be the pattern matching in the body of the function, not on the head.
But the body of the function and the head of the function use the same syntax for pattern matching, with the same meaning.
Wait, maybe I'm not following. Your question is how would you differentiate a pattern match with maps with extra keys, but some keys that you care, from pattern matching what?
Exactly, with no extra keys.
Pattern matching it exactly with no extra keys. I guess you wouldn't do the latter, no?
You are presuming too much, Lemos.
I'm not presuming, I'm making a question.
Well, what if you actually want to ignore any extra keys? Because
No,
maybe you're going to look at some of them and you're going to pass the map to someone else who may care about the extra keys.
No. But in the case that you are saying, you would use this syntax that is currently highlighted, right? Which is what happens. You can have a map with more keys in there, but you only care about true, right?
Yeah.
This case is the case that you're talking about. The second case that you're talking about is about being exactly, right?
No, that's the case that you proposed, where, okay,
No,
if there are...
I am changing my mind of the syntax to represent that. So I would actually just have that one of line 157 and the empty one for 159, and that's it. If you want anything else, you won't be able to do it via simply pattern matching on the function head. Including exactly. You're going to have to call functions to check it. What about that one?
Well, that's the current situation, so...
No, it isn't, because in the current situation, 159 matches maps that are not empty as well. It's not what I said.
But then the pattern matching is now inconsistent.
Well, I don't know why you're calling it inconsistent in this case, right? Because
Because if you have keys, then the pair matching is uh, flexible. But if you don't have keys, it is strict. So it's inconsistent.
I see what you're saying. You're saying that if you do specify some keys, it doesn't exclude the others. And you also want to apply that rule for the zero case, where there are no keys being specified, it's just empty.
Yeah.
I would make the zero case special in this case because it's very obvious that it should be special in my mind. Like it's the same thing with an empty list in my opinion. If it is open close brackets with nothing inside, it's nothing inside.
But lists are positional lemmos. That's the difference.
No, in this, regardless if it's positional or not, my argument is about treating the empty cases uniquely with more convenient pattern matching syntax in comparison to other things. That's kind of my drill. Because when I read this, I was immediately like, okay, we have a case where we care about the keys and we care about two of them. We have a case where we do not care about the keys and we don't want we want the map to be empty. And we have a third case. I think that would be better in terms of readability. That's what I'm trying to say.
Hmm.
Yeah, for construction you need a fat arrow.
Yeah, see, it matches.
Yeah, no, it's because of what you said, right? It's because they use the empty the empty syntax is not empty. The syntax is convey something that is not.
No, no, no. It's not that it's not empty. It's because matching maps in general allows extra keys, and the empty case is not special, so it allows extra keys.
Yeah, no, that's what I understand what you said, but again, I think the syntax is conveying the wrong information. But okay. This is not enough though. Before calling we're not gonna do it like that. We're gonna actually spawn the socket before.
Uh, okay, so we need to do this, right? Basically.
Yeah, just that. We
We
probably
have
should not do it like that. We probably should actually do a case on it because that's pretty terrible. That we are assuming the connection is gonna be successful. We probably should do case on it and have a more useful error message.
but well, I guess that's fair. I guess that's fair. We need to look at TCP connect.
TCP connect Erlang.
And transport options.
And what is the zero, by the way? There is a zero there.
There is a 0.
Yeah, and I want to know what that is.
Well, that's an option, so
So it's after you say if it's binary or not. So let's see.
uh, following options are available. IP address, uh, IF address, FD. Hmm. Packet 0.
Oh my god. That's so overwhelming. They don't tell me, they don't tell us what the number is?
0, 1, 2, 4, and a bunch of symbols. Apparently not.
That's also terrible. Um, what is the zero there?
packet.
Yeah, these are just options, right? These. I think I found it though. If a socket has somehow been connected without using GNTCP, use this option to pass the file descriptor for it. I have no idea. It's not as to specify me what packet may mean. Well, let's just keep it as it is for now.
Send.
Later we can change it.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think we can change this later. This is probably something about the protocol of TCP that it must happen. But we should definitely check the case on it. What are the possible outputs of this thing?
You can return an OK or an error. Case off.
Yeah.
Uh,
Then there is the OK case, which we're gonna do exactly what we are currently doing. And it is single arrow, not fat arrow.
if we get an OK, we do this.
Magetta,
Yeah.
were you here? Did you leave for a couple of minutes?
I was actually reading a paper. Why?
Oh, no, I just wanted to ask you about the syntax thing that I was debating with Marinho.
Okay, just that. I mean, I was listening on the background. You're talking with
No,
me.
just because you see line 161.
161.
Yeah,
Yes.
that map there is how you do pattern matching on Erlang to say map, but any
Yeah.
map,
Mm-hmm.
not an empty one, but any one.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think the syntax is conveying the wrong information in this case. But Marinho
It
made an
does.
argument that at least it is consistent with the pattern matching semantics of the function heads.
Well, you can't really just match on the content of the map apart from the key, right? So if you don't inform a key, then
Yeah, basically the question is, should pattern matching on maps be exact? That is, should it reject a map if it has additional keys, or should it be flexible, like it allows extra keys that you didn't specify?
yeah.
For Lemo's idea of, okay, this is an empty map, so we should map only an empty map, for that to be consistent, then the entire pattern matching on maps should be precise, not flexible. But Erlang
What
chooses to be
is
flexible.
what is strange to me is the goal.
No, the goal is just another argument. Ignore it.
What do you
Yeah,
mean?
this is outside of the map.
I'm talking about 161 on the right side of the arrow.
No, the
Oh, that's
body of the
because goal
start.
is a function.
Yes, because what are you applying there?
A function that you got as an argument.
No, sure, but what is the argument?
An empty map.
An empty map, yeah.
Another
This
reason
the
why it's confusing as fuck, because the empty map on
Yeah.
the left is any map, but the empty map on the right is an
Yeah,
empty
yeah,
map.
that yeah, it is
Terrible.
not the same map
Terrible.
that you matched, right?
that's because this is a pattern and
Yeah.
this is a value.
Yeah, but the syntax is the same. But Marinho was right. It's because the three tokens there, hashtag open curly brace and close curly brace, they have different. They are not the same node.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy, no Camel.
Yeah, no, but in OCaml you cannot do this type of shit, right? You cannot do a
Yeah,
pattern
but
match on a map because the maps are not like first class or whatever.
sure,
Oh,
but well,
oh,
do I
they are.
need to
They're
do
just
that?
not built in.
I don't think they are first class,
You can put them in variables and return them from functions, so
but you cannot export the pattern match semantics of the language to do it.
So what? You being able to pattern match on something is not a requirement for it to be first class.
Well, I guess it depends on the definition of the term that you're using there. If you're using only being able to pass them around, then they are. But in the case of them being used in the built-in constructs of the language, such as pattern matching, they aren't. So I don't know. Okay. Anyway, I just want to ask
Okay, I'll go
Magget to see
there.
his opinion. Okay, so then there's an error case, Marinho. So it's error atom. It's the same thing, tuple, and there is a reason.
There's an error case, but also, oh yeah, this actually needs to have an and then this can actually go away. Okay. So error. Then we need to do something here. What do we do actually, and what are the errors that we can get?
I don't think it. Well, maybe it doesn't specify because we're just receiving a reason. But let's see the type of errors that we can get. So it can
Actually,
return.
this is not accept. We need to do, yeah, connect.
Found it. Oh, there are many of them. It's just a bunch of. It's just a bunch of atoms. The reasons. The reason. Just print them. I think. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's already. Oh, you already scored. No, it isn't still. No.
Yeah, this is
There.
connect.
Yeah, enet POSIX. You see? It's there. inet POSIX.
Bad port, bad sequence,
No,
maybe?
that's not it. You clicked on the POSIX. It's inet POSIX.
inet is the name of the module.
Yeah, but in my documentation, I have many more cases than just those three.
Oh, this is version 19. This is not the latest one. This is supposed to be 26, right?
Yeah, there we go. Bunch of atoms, man. I would just print them out and, I don't know, abort.
So they seriously just passed the POSIX error code forward. Okay. Okay, I guess we can. I guess we can. I guess we can throw an exception. I guess we can throw an exception. Uh,
Mate, why are you going to throw the exception of the entire tuple?
hmm, I guess we don't need to.
Yeah, we just grab the reason. And just throw an exception with the reason.
Uh, Documentation, basic.
What are you looking for?
For the reference manual for the language, not the libraries.
No. But yeah, well, what are you looking for looking into that documentation? That's just
Errors
kind of
and error
implicit.
handlings, exceptions. There we go. Try catch, class.
What are you looking for?
Mm. Okay, you just do a throw.
No, I could have helped you with that, man. I was asking because I wanted to help.
Uh, so you just throw whatever, I guess.
Yeah, I would have said that. That's why I was asking.
A runtime error. There's a separate error in throw functions. What's up with that?
I think it's in the beginning of the text. Can you go back to the error? Yeah. Raise an exception of they are from different classes. One is from the throw class and the other one is from the error class.
Okay, I guess we do this then. Well, and yeah, we don't really need the error tag if we're throwing an error, so
Yeah, this
like
probably is
this.
not the greatest, especially because there are no locations in the source code. But it's gonna fly for us for now, as of right now. Okay, so now here comes the fun part. Here comes the fun part. We need to adapt all of our, maybe not all of them, but all of the functions that can interact with the database. We need to change them so they also can be used in the context of talking to sockets. That's my understanding.
All of the functions that can talk to the database.
So my understanding is that like predicate calls, they should be changed.
This is, yeah. Why?
You're asking me?
Yes, why should we change predicate calls?
Because a predicate call can have an at on it, and if it has an at on it, then it needs to receive shit from the database.
Well, that's something we can change in the compiler. The compiler and the runtime will have to cooperate on that.
But that doesn't change. My understanding is that doesn't change what I said because the compiler doesn't have access to any of the socket stuff. It
No,
needs
but
to
the
be done in
compiler
Erlang.
is no, but the compiler is going to arrange the code that uses the socket stuff.
Well, yeah, but the code that's going to be arranged, which is going to be the Erlang code, needs to be able to use the socket stuff. Agree?
Yeah.
So we need to use it. We're not using it. We're just bootstrapping it.
Mm, okay, well, I guess we need primitives to talk to the database then.
That is a good idea. I'm gonna say I agree, but that doesn't change. That also doesn't change what I said because what I'm trying to convey is there are functions that we have such as the conj and the gizg. Maybe I don't know if those are the ones. Just to clarify, but there are functions that may be used in a context of calling the database. And if that happens, we need to be able to use the sockets. And none of the code does that right now. That's what I'm
The
trying to say.
code just passes the state forward, and the initial state has the socket now if you provide the configuration for it.
Yeah, but nobody's using it.
Well, but it's there. Anyone can use it. It's just nobody's using it yet.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Is that we are the ones that need to be using it.
Hmm.
Um, okay, so we can start with the primitives. So which primitive you want to? Which primitives do we need? Um,
Well, at the very least, for this initial implementation, we need the ability to run a query
we need the ability
on
to
the
run a query.
database.
I think this should not live in here though. I think this should be in sakura.url. I think.
Yeah, no, this should. Sakura.url. Yeah, this definitely should live here, in fact.
Yeah, so we need a send. Let's create a send function that receives the state. Well, maybe the socket only, not the state, but the socket. And it receives another argument, which is the data, and it sends the data. And it waits, and it does the blocking for us as well.
Mageta's not here, right?
No. No, he's muted. I'm assuming he went to dinner.
Yeah, I kind of want to know if Sakura does multiplexing.
Let's assume no, because that's hard. Well, that's less simple than an initial implementation would be. What's your
Then we have a
take on it?
problem. We have a problem.
Tell me.
Because in principle, we may need to run multiple queries on our side, right?
Yeah.
Because if we can't compose them together, so Mageta can do the joins on his side, we need to do that on our side.
Yes.
But that implies that we will need to keep those connections for each query open, kind of separately from each other.
Yeah, the multiplex is using a single connection for multiple queries, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How hard? I'm very ignorant in this. Is it that hard to do a multiplexing server? I don't think it is, right? Back from my memories of doing web dev.
Uh, it's probably not, but I'm not particularly well versed in TCP, so I'm not sure.
Oh, let's go to the GenTCP and search for the word multiplexing.
And the latest version is actually 28. Of course, that doesn't exist. Why would it?
Okay, so GenTCP Erlang multiplexing.
This is kernel. Okay. This is for the version.
What you're saying is that if we don't have multiplexing, you're gonna have to have one socket per query.
Yeah, and we really don't want that.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. Can multiple sends.
Hmm. A client connecting to a server, transferring a binary and calling the connection.
Multiplexing gen TCP Erlang server. Okay, so according to AI, it is possible in Erlang. Let's assume it is possible in OCaml. Why not? Like, why wouldn't it be possible in OCaml?
Uh,
You see what I'm saying?
Listening, accept. The problem is,
Yeah,
okay.
in the AI example, they are using a process to make a queue of the multiple sends in the server side. And that's how they are doing it.
Huh, okay.
Let's just assume it is, man, because like again, it seems very easy to do it in Erlang. Why wouldn't it be possible to do it in OCaml?
The problem is not whether or not the server can accept multiple connections, it's actually whether it can service multiple queries in the same connection.
Multiple queries in the same connection. Why would that not be the case?
Because we're not going to call connect repeatedly on our side, right?
We won't.
That means that he's going to accept once, so he's going to have one socket to talk to a particular running program,
Sure,
right?
sure.
And we may have multiple unrelated queries in the same socket.
What's the problem?
The problem is that we're going to have handle the results one at a time, right?
Yeah.
So we may need to do some interleaving there on our side.
Interleaving in our side.
Yeah, because if we get like, I don't know, if we do like 2 queries and we get one result from each, and then we have to backtrack, then we need to get the next 2 results from each of them, you see?
Hmm. Wait, could you explain that, like paraphrase that, just for me to see if I got it, the problem? I understood that what you're saying is we have a single socket for the entire run of the program. Then, if you have multiple queries in multiple portions of the program, they would be using the same socket. So how do we know if the data is coming from which query? Is that the question?
That's the question, yes. Or rather, how the server knows is the more pertinent one, because like we are sending the queries and we're expecting to get results back, but we don't want the results all at once, and we're
I
not
have an
going to
idea.
get. Okay.
So in the Karuta runtime, our logic variables are not actually names, they are references, which are by the Erlang definition unique. We could, when doing a send those references to the server as well. So then when the information comes back, it comes with those bindings for us to know which one is from which. Does that make
Mm,
sense?
it. I understand what you're saying, but that doesn't help because the problem is not knowing which variables to match. The problem is like the problem is whether or not the the Sakura side can handle like sending the results incrementally and interleaved.
Ah, I know what you're saying. It's because we're gonna do a dispatch and say, Magetta, hey, give me the data for A and B bindings, please. And and then he's gonna start processing some data. But then we're gonna send another query in the meantime saying, hey, I want that actually for C and D as well. So can he receive shit while he's still processing the other ones? Is that the question?
Mm,
I'm trying to define the question properly. Because you're talking about interleaving, but to me it's still a little bit too vague.
let me. Okay, the question really is okay. I need to run multiple queries, right? Because we may not be able to combine all the queries together statically. So in general, a program may have to do multiple queries, but then because this is Karuta, a program may also need to backtrack, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the semantics of backtracking is um, if I'm running a query that gets multiple results on the Karuta side, backtracking just means give me the next result.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is, if I do that with, let's say, 2 queries open at the same time, and I need to get the next result for both of them, does that
Mm-hmm.
work?
Why it shouldn't? That's kind of my. That's what I'm trying to get at. What would be the problem in making that a reality?
Hmm. The problem would be that those 2 queries are running through the same socket.
Yeah, I'm not following at all. If you send to the server which things you are querying, like as I said, you can just send the references, and Mageta can do the bookkeeping on his side to know where he left off the stream of outcomes for those particular bindings. Then what is the issue in being a single socket?
Management algebra.
I don't know if he has the server, man. That's kind of the thing. He's kind of working on the foundation.
Serialized generator.
Maybe if we
Oh.
draw, it's gonna be easier. So can we draw a little bit in Scala draw or something? Because I'm really not getting the problem.
Hmm. Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, actually, maybe we will need to do some bookkeeping on our side as well to handle that.
I don't think we do because you already have the bookkeeping via the bindings.
We do because the bindings don't exist before we run the query.
The bindings don't exist before we do the query. Before we do the query.
Yeah, like let's say I'm doing this inc a ab, and let's say that for the sake of argument, a and b are not bound yet. Okay.
Well, this syntax won't exist anymore, but yeah.
Um,
You can only do
when
ats in body declarations. You cannot have a declaration like a fact like that.
oh, this wouldn't be in effect. This would be inside of a body of some predicate.
Yeah, if that's being called in a body of a predicate, that's fine.
Yeah, so at this point, the variables a and b, they do exist, but they are not bound to anything, right?
Yeah, sure.
So we send a query with inc saying, hey, which two variables, and the names don't have to match up with the names here. Actually, they probably won't because we discard these names
Yeah,
when we compile, right?
yeah,
But then I'm going to ask Sakura, okay, given this predicate call, what are the bindings that make it true?
yeah,
And in general, there may be many bindings,
yeah,
many different sets of bindings,
yeah,
but we're gonna get them one at a time, right?
yeah. No, that
So
actually
we're
was going to
gonna
be a configuration in the future. Like, we're going to make a batch system later.
no, but the batching is transparent, right?
Yeah, yeah,
It is
yeah,
not actually visible
yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's
So
not
for the sake of
visible.
the language semantics, what we do is we grab one result, we do the bindings
Yes,
positionally in this case,
yes,
right?
yes.
But then we need to prepare the tail of the stream in case the current branch fails, so that we can resume with the next result later.
When you say prepare the tail, what do you mean?
Because like this is going to give us a stream of results, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to combine this stream
Actually,
with the.
I don't know if it will, because here's the situation. It can send us only one. Like, if we do it one at a time, there's no stream. We just poke it and it gives us more.
That's a physical concern. I'm talking about the logical
Okay,
meaning of this.
logically is a stream. I agree then.
Uh, so, like, okay, the head of the stream is going to get merged into the current node in the stream of results that we're computing, right? Because,
Sure,
like,
sure.
but
Makes
then
sense.
we need to prepare the tail in case we need to backtrack at some point. And the question is, okay, are we going to get any support from Karuta for remembering that these are the results, or what kind of bookkeeping do we have to do on our side? That's my concern.
I don't understand why that's required at all. Because at the point that you have to do backtracking, you just do another poke.
Well, yes, but you have to prepare that poke when you construct the
Yeah, I
tail
don't
of the stream.
understand what you're saying prepare. Like that's a very vague term. So can you specify what is prepare the tail?
Well, we're going to build a lazy stream, right?
Sure.
That means we need to construct the head element, which is the first result, and we
Uh,
have to construct the tail, which is another stream of all of the remaining results after the first one, right?
Wait.
logically
Are
makes
you
sense to
guys
me. Sorry, Magita.
so this wait, I don't know the context, so I must ask first. Is this to pull information?
No,
Or
yeah.
is that
So
just
we
to
are debate. Well, we're not debating. I'm trying to understand Marinho's concern because Marinho, we were about to
Uh,
start.
let me just ask Mageta directly. Mageta, can you do multiplexing on a single socket on Sakura?
um I mean I don't think I support that yet, but I could. There's nothing preventing it.
Because like the
It's
strategy
a good
that we're
move.
going with, we're gonna have a single socket for the entire runtime of the Karuta program.
I see. So you would want some identification, right, from which connection you're making,
Well, I want
Yeah,
to
as
use the
because
in
bindings themselves. I don't want to use the connection.
no, the problem is that we can
oh,
have multiple queries through the same socket because we're going to set up a single socket at the start of the Karuta
and
program.
and possibly different contexts in each
In,
query.
yes, exactly. That's the problem I'm trying to figure out how to fix, how to solve.
Yeah, I
I mean
don't
I
see the
can
problem yet. That's just a bookkeeping problem. Please, somebody help me. I don't see the problem.
imagine like this. I have a portion of the code, a function. I have two functions that I call, and I want to make a database diff. Like I want to diff on the application the predicates that changed from one version to another, and then I make two queries. I need to change the version of the database to make the query. So
Well,
when
at
you
this
make a
point, we're
query,
not doing writing, so it wouldn't be a different version. It would be two queries running against the same version, but the
right?
queries
Okay.
are different.
Let me think of
Yeah, no,
another
but what
example.
Marinho,
So
that's my
can you?
problem, Magetta. For writing, I see the problem, but for reading, which is what Magetta was describing, I see no problem at all with what he just said. You have two
Well,
queries.
how do
They're
you
different in the same database. What's the problem?
if it's the same socket and then it replies to one, it will reply to all of them. So how do you know for which process it is?
We don't have multiple processes in here.
But we have but we have multiple possible results of a single predicate, right?
No, but we
And
know
each of
what the next response is going to be about because we told the Sakura what are the bindings we are trying to pull.
do we? Can we actually tell that to Sakura currently?
Well,
That's my
that's my
concern.
suggestion. No, but that's what I told you 15 minutes ago. Why don't we just send the bindings and let Magetta do the bookkeeping? I don't understand.
Then we're dumping application state that shouldn't be the concern. Like this is ephemeral state because it's about a binding of a particular run of a particular program that uses the database.
Okay, so what you're saying is that you want to do the bookkeeping on our side.
If you do
No, I'm trying.
bookkeeping,
I'm trying to figure out what kind of bookkeeping do we need to begin with.
if you guys do like disjunction, right? Doesn't that enforce you to make multiple queries with possibly different versions of the data or the database?
Uh, no, because if we're doing a disjunction, what we need to do is we need to run a query, and the
Mm-hmm.
query may have multiple possible answers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
We need to be able to handle the answers one at a time on our side.
yeah. But if
Okay,
there are
so
multiple queries in the same socket, how do we know which one is which? I guess that's the original problem.
yes,
And then I was
yes.
trying to answer that it doesn't matter because we just send the bindings to the database and the database keeps the bookkeeping. But Marinho doesn't want you to do the bookkeeping.
Like the bookkeeping for a run of a particular program or rather, a particular run of a program, an application program, is not really the concern of the database exactly.
No, I think that's a gray area because it is kind of related because the database needs to know which point in the stream it is pulling the answers from.
But it doesn't need to know that the other side of the connection is running Karuta specifically.
No, I guess that is true. Okay, so the question is, what type of bookkeeping we need to do on our side so we can get around the multiplexing problem?
Uh,
Wait,
Let
before
me
we
think.
continue, Magetta, did you get the problem?
Yes, that's what I intended to say as a problem. To be honest,
Okay.
I I
Hmm.
think there might be an easy way to solve it, which is a session ID. So not I well, yeah, some kind of identifier that for questions of the same, like queries in general, of the same context in the application, you bind them under a I don't want to say transaction, but I think it makes sense if you think that way. Bind them in a transaction of the database version, and then you just operate on that isolated instance.
Um, well, as long as you can bind multiple, let's call them transactions because you call them that, but it would be more properly. Well, logically, it's all in the same transaction because it's all running against the same database version, but
Yes. That's why I didn't want to use transaction, but I don't know a better word for that.
Okay, but how would that look like? We would save a version in the state to know which one we should be caring about? How does that work?
well, I have an idea. Okay, so basically, assuming that Baguette is willing to do this on the Sakura side, whenever we run a query, we actually say, hey, Sakura, I know this is the same socket that we're talking already, but I need a fresh session against the current database version, or whatever version I care about. And I would have to tell the version if I cared about a particular one. And then Sakura would have to be like, okay, here's the new session ID for your fresh session. And then every time I need to run a separate query, I spawn a new session. I start running the query on that session, and then I get the results one at a time because Karuta would not handle them all as a collection of all results, right? That doesn't match the meaning of the language. Um, and then basically we would care about every time we need to do a backtrack. We basically would have to say, okay, the previous result was like, let's say it was the first one, so result 0 from session X. Now I want result 1 from session X, and then you would just have to keep bumping the offset of the result each time, I guess.
Isn't it easier just to say give me the next one of X and then because again the streaming keeping track of the streaming I think it's the responsibility of the engine, not ours.
That could work, I
I,
guess.
Yeah, so you just essentially say, hey, I want the data from these variables of session X or Y or Z or whatever, and then um, there will be a session system inside the engine that can allow us to have multiple contexts in a single socket. Because the other way around is to have multiple sockets, right? But we don't want to do that.
I don't think having multiple sockets is a good idea.
Yeah.
that sounds like recipe for disaster.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna work
I
with the
mean,
idea of sessions.
I don't block the process. I mean, I just pipe it back. So, okay, let me explain this to you guys. The last thing I was doing with the cock thingy was this. Are you recording, by the way,
Yeah,
Linus?
I am.
Okay, I'll try to be speedy then to not hijack the context. But um, so what I did is essentially you have the sub languages, and previously I had to try and go by trial and error on each one of them to see which fits, right? So I basically did all of that stuff. Yeah, you see those folders. So they're all just executed serially in a priority that I found, and then I basically just go one by one and say, okay, like this command is a matches with a command that is specified on the DRL, so it is a DRL. You see, so those are the sublanguages. I'm thinking
Look at
of
all those binds in
yeah.
the code.
So what I'm thinking of doing, and that's part of what I was working, is to do a enveloping of those queries. So what is that envelope? When you do a when you issue a command to Karuta, imagine the S expression, right? So you join a relation, blah blah. So you would wrap that section of the code with an envelope for DRL because you know what kind of thing it is. You see,
Uh-huh.
and we could use that envelope to basically track the sessions and the commands for which process it is. Uh, I said process, but it could be like just any use case that you want to differentiate the source, right, from who is calling, and then I can just bypass the incoming messages sent to the execution engine with the context on this envelope.
Yeah, I think
Hmm.
I think if you already have some sort of metadata envelope kind of thing, I think we can pull off the session idea. Okay, so let's continue then, Marinho. So we're gonna assume you're gonna bootstrap a session every time we do a new query. Cool.
Yes, that's the idea. That's the idea.
Okay, so let's go back to the original plan of making the primitives. So which primitives you think we need?
Uh,
What about an ask primitive? I want to ask the value out of a couple of bindings. Is
well,
that
it
a
would really be
primitive?
the value of a query. Uh, well, a result for a query, which is a map of bindings. Yeah. Hmm.
Just another question. The unification is going to be happening on our side, right? Not on Magenta.
Well, it has to be because we have runtime data that Sakura doesn't know about.
Well, yeah, but that's the kind of the catch. We do know about it, so we can kind of like I don't know if this is doable. Maybe it's bullshit what I'm about to say, but if we already know something about that, we can do a select. When I say select, I mean real selects, not SQL selects. Okay, so the where in SQL. If you can help Magenta query stuff because we know something about the some of the bindings of the relation, isn't that useful for the query in the Sakura side?
Uh, that would more properly be some kind of optimization when compiling the queries.
I
No,
agree. No, I completely agree, but I'm just asking if this makes sense.
it does, but not at the runtime level. That sounds more like an optimization thing.
Okay. Okay, so let's do it. So which primitive you want to do first? What is in your head, Marine?
Uh, well, let's see. We need to be able to run the DRL at least, right? For this
Yeah,
first.
yeah, we're gonna do DRL. Like, if we manage to pull the DRL off, I'm already gonna be super duper happy, right? Of course, for the demo at the end of the year, we want to have more than just the DRL, but the DRL is a good start, especially because there's no writing. So,
Let's see. So
Hmm.
we can ask for a base relation. We can do a constant. We can do a select, which is a pair of queries. Okay. Yeah, we basically need to be able to construct something that looks like this on the Karuta side and send it over to. Well, serialize it to an S expression and send it over to Sakura,
but
basically,
that's the
right?
thing, though. My understanding is that we're gonna have to compile because our environment doesn't understand, our runtime doesn't understand any of those terms, right?
That is true.
So we have to compile whatever we have to those and then serialize it to S expressions. That's my current understanding.
Let me see if I can. I noticed that there is a problem, but I'll get that fixed.
Okay, so let's go. So what about, I don't know, there is a base relation by name. Let's start with that.
Yeah, that's a good example.
Can't you just encode these all as tuples on the Erlang side?
Well, in theory, in Erlang, that's the proper way to do it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's just do that. That's pretty
Why
trivial to
don't you guys
transform.
do a spec in Erlang with all of these defined, and then you just use that spec?
No,
At
we're
We
least
gonna
can do
it's
make
like
a
that.
taking types.
we're gonna make a spec for sure, but not now. We're just trying to get something working first.
Well,
I think it's actually a good idea to do the spec first, actually.
No, but just a bunch of tuples, man. Isn't it?
Well, yes, but I don't want to have to keep flipping to the browser whenever I want to look at what then the tuple should look like.
I mean, you can just do one for testing.
grab the
For
OCaml code and SKI to make a spec in Erlang for it.
Why would I ask AI to do that for me?
Because we are all lazy people. And it's easier to have something to just refine than to just because I don't
yeah.
even remember the syntax of that spec, to be honest.
I think I have one on my old trash. Let me see.
Oops.
Let me
Magetta is a
see.
look at how awesome Magetta is. All of the types of this type are primitives. They are like strings and lists, so it's pretty good.
Oh, this is beautiful, man. I polished this thing like a crystal ball. It has to be shining.
Spec.
I literally have a commit called defenestrate JSON.
Are you a master of dark fenestrology, Mageta?
Fenestrology. What the heck is that?
Man, I think we should have. Here's the thing.
Browse files.
It
There we
would be
go.
very cool if we could have. I'm just
Here.
like dreaming right now, so don't take anything that I'm about to say seriously.
Click on this link here, by the way.
Click on this link. Click on that link, please, Marinho. I think that's with this a spec example.
This one, right?
Scroll down.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, that
Type.
constraint spec. That's a good one.
Yeah, that we definitely should do that. But here's the thing: it's very dangerous to. Oh man, I feel so bad of what I'm about to say because this is 100% a microservices thing. But if
Here we go.
Magetta changes the definitions of those types, CI should catch that and inform us on our side.
No, that totally makes sense. If he's changing the protocol, we also need to change the protocol on our side because that's how we communicate.
Yeah, but that's the
Isn't it
thing.
better to just have a library, like, and then you guys conform with the library instead?
Um, I was thinking of a
Okay, are you
PPX
willing to
that
write?
creates a def spec out of a type. Is that too crazy?
It can be abstracted to more languages, though.
No. No, but that's 230 optimization shit.
Yeah, I think that's a
20
long
through
way
30,
from
sorry.
where we are. Yeah, that's a long way from where we
Yeah,
are.
I think having a CI step that actually compiles the type into a def spec and compares that with ours, and if it doesn't match, it doesn't allow the PR to be merged. I think that's enough. Really.
then we have a test for Beneden. Because I'm not doing that. That's a
Yeah.
nice idea if Bened does it.
That's a nice idea.
So
Just copy in the example, Marinho. It's easier.
I'm gonna copy this for now, but this is not quite right. Oops. Type, then the name, then double
Yeah.
colon, and then we have the cases, right?
This is gonna live in a header file later in a Sakura.hrl, and yeah, we can just make a CI step that compiles the type. Yeah, that's definitely something that sounds doable to me. I don't know how bad it is. I never did PPXs in my life.
So base
Probably a
is a
miserable experience.
string. We do have string here, right?
Yeah, string definitely.
Okay. Let me see. What will I do here now, Lemos?
Binary
No,
bit
implement the
string.
session. The session shit.
Wait, what? Sorry?
Implement
Oh,
the
the
session stuff.
Should I do that now, though?
Well, because here's the thing. We're gonna reach a point that actually no, you don't have to do it that right now because
Because that's...
we are a little bit far from that. A little bit.
Hmm.
We have to do the syntax to allow because we're doing the runtime first. But
Yeah,
there's no
let's
way
not
to
do this actually.
do what?
Strings, let's use binaries.
Sure. It's a bit string then.
No, it's a binary.
I thought binaries and bit strings are the same shit.
They aren't actually.
What's the difference?
A binary has a size which is necessarily a multiple of 8.
But isn't that... Ah, no, that's not. Okay. Okay, const. Let's continue.
Need to update my Nix flake. I hope it's not forbidden in my country.
It's a list.
It might be. It might be.
This is a list, so just open close brackets.
No, but this is a single tuple relation, right? So that means that this is actually a map.
Ah, yeah, my get is representing the map as a list.
So, yeah, this is not great.
Yeah, but how do you do def spec of a type with a map inside? Is there any syntax such as for lists? And the answer is there is. You just hashtag open curly braces.
Wait, I can just put a map here? Is
Yeah,
that it?
yeah.
You're free to dream.
So,
Yeah, but it's the fat arrow. And then the keys, yeah, exactly. It's, no. Open close parentheses. Yeah.
and then the value.
There's another type called value that we haven't checked it out. Let me open the link that Magita sent. A value is... Oh, it's just a term. It's just a term.
A value is
So,
just a term.
yeah,
Okay.
so it is literally like anything. We can just use term here as well, in our case.
Can we? Do we actually want that?
Well, we need something that is very generic, and I don't know anything more generic than a term.
Okay, a value is an int or a float or a string or a boolean. So in fact, we can just say type.
It looks so much more
Primitive?
pleasant to look at OCaml. Okay, let me see how hard it will be to implement your session, Lemos. But here's one thing: a session may be misleading, right? What we want is actually isolation, is it not?
Snapshot.
Well, it's not really. Well, of course, we do want a snapshot of the current state of the database at the start of the program to run the queries, all of the queries against the same point in time. But that's not really the issue necessarily. The issue is, okay, I want to run multiple queries against the same snapshot. And I don't want them to be mixed up because I'm
That's...
running them in a single socket.
Wait. Isn't that just a matter of passing the same database reference?
That's what I was talking about. Again, Maybe
Like
I
if you
didn't
pass
explain
the
it
same
properly.
database reference always, you will always get the same, right? So maybe that's what you were talking about, Lemos, that I didn't understand.
No, but I was definitely saying some bullshit because Marin was also not understanding.
Hmm. Well, if
Marin,
Marinho
I think now
didn't
Mageta is also
understand, maybe.
not getting the problem. So the problem is, Mageta, I will try to explain it as Marin can
Okay,
confirm. The problem is that we're gonna have multiple queries in a single socket, and we
sure.
need to be able to do backtracking in all of those queries independently.
Yeah, so they need to be isolated.
Exactly. And then Marinho's idea is that every time we introduce a new query to the context, like to the running of the program, we we ask for a new session to make sure that we're gonna when we backtrack, we are actually poking the stream with the correct session
Oh,
value.
that is different. That is different. So you guys just okay. I think I think I'm remembering now. So the problem is not that the guarantee of getting the same results, but guarantee of continuation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That
that
is
is
the problem.
correct.
which the solution is kind of what I said. We just send to you some sort of identifier and you figure the shit out. I wanted to send you the bindings that we are asking for.
That
Marinho had
doesn't
something
make
against
much.
that.
That
Um,
doesn't make much sense from the point of view of the database
yeah,
because I'm going.
that was the argument that the bindings are a concern of Karuta, not a concern of the database.
Like what I think I can do probably is to make a lazy string process, like I spawn a lightweight process with a generator string, and then it's just memoized, right? So you
Yeah,
just
no,
not
but
memoized, sorry.
you're gonna have to do the redirection. You see, because we're gonna talk to the server, the main server. Your server
Hmm.
needs to grab the session and say, do I already have a process running with a generator for this shit? If I do, redirect the message to that
No,
sub
no. I mean,
process.
in that case, you just send the same session, right? And then that session has the, well, that could be for caching too, but specifically for that context, you know what you are consuming, right?
I know, yeah.
So on this consumption, you just send me the the identifier of that session, and then I just continue feeding you with that guy.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think that's
But
pretty simple.
yeah, but that's what I was trying to say. That if you create a lightweight thread with a lazy generator waiting to like be poked, the server needs to talk to that guy. That's it.
Yeah, but I need to know which one to talk to,
Yeah,
right?
but
And that is the
that's gonna be on
multiplexing.
us. We have the identifier for you.
So if I envelope the request into a with a header, saying pass this guy on the header as a session, and then I either just spawn all the processes and bind to that session,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, pretty much.
Okay, that makes
And
sense.
by the way, Marinho, one thing that you said about the entire all the queries being done on the same snapshot of the database, that's not going to be true for when we introduce the TTL, right? The transaction language.
Yeah, no, at that point, then, yeah, we will need to be able to interact with multiple versions of the database concurrently.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay,
so are
I
we
think
done?
I'll merge.
Go
I
on,
think
man.
I'll merge a branch that I had here. Uh,
Speaking of branch, Mageta, you didn't see on Wednesday because you left. Check the master branch of Karuta. We did the changes on the README, so check it out to see what you think.
okay. Okay, let me merge this trash. I think
Wait, is this
it's
how you do a
largely
list? I don't think that's how you do a list.
Uh, well,
I think it's just open closing brackets.
oops.
Oh, there is a primitive for list. But isn't that the same syntax? Because it's sugar for open closing brackets thing?
I mean, I guess this also works, and it's shorter, so
Okay. Okay, so now the Cartesian. The Cartesian should just be query query, right? You have the type up there, man. You don't have to go to the browser.
And this code is
Select.
very well documented. I'm proud of that, but it's not the way I would want. I made a functor for sublanguages, and then I separated because I read Pascal's paper again, and then I said, "Oh, I actually ignored what he wrote in there." Okay, that's it.
Okay, so join the list of binaries, query query,
Now Cartesian is just query
Cartesian.
query. Don't forget the open close parentheses. Yeah. Project is um, list of strings, which I guess is going to become a list of binary in a query.
Yeah,
That's
it's
the
not
wrong one.
this. List of binary and a query. Rename. Well, this is clearly a map of binary
To
to
binary.
binary.
And there's a query.
I'm not sure if I can rename multiple things at the same time. Can I?
We're not going to use rename, so it's fine.
Let me see. Actually, I'm curious now. DRL. Maybe I do.
Union is just two queries.
Oh yeah, I can. It's a list of strings to strings.
Diff is also two queries. So
And a
Yeah,
and
diff
take
is
take
is an int and a query.
is
Integer and query. Yeah.
Sugoi.
Yeah, we can align those better a little bit, but I think we are done. We have the types for queries, which is everything we need for DRL anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Everything we need for DRL. I have a question. So, Marinho, my understanding is that the aggregate or like the old unfold primitive, is that gonna be just a select in this world?
aggregate.
Yeah, you remember the problem with for alls?
Yes, I do remember that.
Yeah. So how are we gonna talk to Sakura about that? I think it's gonna be a selected star, isn't it? Not a selected star, a projected star.
A project star.
Yeah, because projects are how you get the data. You do projections. So oh, okay,
That's
that's
not what I
weird.
wanted to do.
Marinho, what did you understand should be of the const in there?
Uh, const. This is like just a literal tuple that you want to put inside of the query,
Yeah,
perhaps
it
to
is.
match it against something else.
Yes, it is a relation, but that you compose on the fly, right? So it's a tuple essentially. Well, multiple possibly. Columns, attributes, but it's just a tuple. I was thinking of making that with multiple, well, list of list, right? But so far it's okay like this. So just bear that in mind, that it can be a list of lists in the future.
I get it. Did you understand what I'm talking about the unfold? Is it
Wait, what?
clear?
Sorry, I wasn't paying
No,
attention.
no, no. It's Marinho.
Oh, Marinho.
Marinho.
Uh, the unfold. Yeah, that's basically what we have to do to run a query.
No, 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 no.
Because
But
we do
how it's gonna be translated to this type? It's gonna be a projected star, isn't it? Whatever how Magetta does stars, I don't know.
project star. What do you mean project star?
What does unfold does? It grabs all of the data of a particular relation available in the database. That means that we need a way to talk to say to Magetta, hey, give me the data all of the data in a lazy manner of this relation. And then, when that happens, how are you going to translate that? I'm trying to already see that future. That's what I'm trying to say. And I think it's going to be a project. Do you agree?
A project. Not necessarily.
Okay, so how come?
Because like if we want to get all of the results, that's just running the query, except we grab everything. So that shouldn't actually affect the structure of the query itself.
I don't understand. How are you gonna get the? You're gonna if you do a simple query, you only get one thing at a time. We need all of it at a single time. How are you gonna do that?
Magetta, do you support getting all of the results at once?
Wait, sorry, I was doing something else. What is that?
Like, do you support if I run a query and I ask you for all of the results, does that work?
If you're running a query and you ask for all of the,
Results.
Every result of the query.
yeah, it will give you all of the tuples at once.
There you go.
Yeah, no, but
Right now,
that's
like
not
I don't have
no,
streaming.
but that's not the question. The question is which of these, which one of these additive tags is gonna be the one chosen to do such operation? I'm asking if it's gonna be project.
It depends on the query
Oh,
levels.
all of them give you a relation
But
back.
I am asking about unfold.
What do you mean unfold?
It's the aggregate. It's the aggregate thing.
Aggregate is a quantification, no?
That doesn't go in the query, Lemos.
What? I am more confused than before.
Look, I have a query, and I have a choice about how many results I want, okay? Normally, for Karuta, you would want them one at a time.
Well, but
But if you
that's
do
not
an
the case for
unfold, you want.
aggregate or unfold.
But if you do an unfold or an aggregate, same thing, different names, then you just ask for all of them.
Yeah.
You don't actually change the query itself.
How the aggregate? Yeah, that I don't understand. I don't understand that because in my understanding, the aggregate necessarily must be a project
Why?
because the way that we decided the operator to be.
Can you
It's a
show
list.
the aggregate again? I don't even remember.
Yeah.
Aggregate is literally I'm running a query, but instead of getting the results one at a time, I want all of them.
In a
Project
list.
is about
Oh,
project
no,
is
no, no. I
about
think
something completely different. It's about saying, okay, I have a tuple, but I want to get rid of some columns. I want to restrict my
I th-
results to just
I
some
think
keys.
what Lemos is confused is the type of the, because think about what the unfold is doing. Can you tell me what is the operation, like what
Yeah,
it
it's a
takes
select
and what it
star
transforms
from
to?
table. That's it.
So it will aggregate everything in a list and unify a variable with a list, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't that the same thing as a row where the element is a list?
Yeah, sure.
There you go. So it's a relation with a single tuple where everything is condensed in a list. I don't have that yet, but I can make it. It's not a problem.
Wait, repeat what you said. It's a row. It's a single tuple
It's a
with a list
relation
inside.
that aggregates. It's a relation that aggregates every element of it, every tuple that it contains, and it produces another relation that has all of those tuples in a single list.
Yeah, yeah. That is a very weird way to look at it because I don't particularly see aggregation as a relation, but yeah.
Well, it is the product of it, right? It's just an association, so it is a relation if you think about it.
Okay, but it's clear now. It's not. We cannot do it with this type yet.
No, we would have to do it
Why?
on the meta level. When we run the query, instead of getting the results one at a time, we say, give me all of them.
No, but that's a separate
There's one.
operation, Marie. Magetta just said
My
he
point
doesn't
is
have it.
my point is that it doesn't need to be on the query level.
Yes, it's another relation. So
Ah,
any of these
that's what you're
operations can
saying.
produce.
It doesn't need to be on the query level.
Yeah.
I guess that, yeah, I understand that. Okay, no, sorry about that. I didn't catch it. Okay, so we
By
have
the
those
way,
types.
I made an unfortunate decision, and you guys will have to implement types as well. And I made float there, Marinho.
Wait, what do you mean we have to implement types as well?
Like str blah blah, just for the atoms, right? You need to serialize them with the type.
Let's realize
Like
them with the.
str for string, an integer with int, like that kind of stuff.
Oh, they need to be explicitly tagged. You mean?
Yes,
My
yes.
God, it doesn't infer them. Okay, cool.
Uh,
That's
I
fine.
mean, it's by design because they are domains, right? So you can make a string, but then it's a date, right? That kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Or
but
a money,
yeah, but that's
whatever, like
that's very
custom.
fine. We are not at the level of serialization yet because now we have to make. Now that we have the specs, what do we have to do? We have to um, build primitives that use those types, right, Marin?
Mm, build primitives that use those types. Yeah, we need to be able to serialize them to S expressions at least.
No, no, no. But that's my opinion. A second step. We need to first be able to call something from the. Um, well, Karuta needs to be able to call something. That's what I'm trying to say. Serialization should be the last step.
We should be able to call something.
Yeah, because remember, if you go back to the Karuta.url, we are bootstrapping a socket, but we are not using it anywhere. If we're going to use it, we're going to have some primitives that allows us to use it in some of those functions, right? At least in some of them. Not probably not all of them. Does that make sense, Maria?
It does. So we would need to do something like I don't know.
I was thinking of an ask function.
Sure, we can call it ask. Uh, so it would take an environment, and we
Yeah.
would have to look at the socket inside of it
I was actually
and a
thinking of
query.
I was actually thinking of putting that responsibility on the caller because then Sakura doesn't know about the environment definition. He can only have the socket. But I don't
It
know if that's
can
a good
only
idea.
have that. I mean, we can do that, but that's annoying because,
The
and
caller will
actually
have to
this
do
is
the destructuring ourselves, right?
and actually this is wrong. We need to return a function that takes the environment. Yeah, but that's annoying because like this is going to construct a stream of results, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, but then we would have to dump those results into the environment somewhere.
Okay, no.
And
If we're gonna have to do that, it's better to receive the entire environment here and just return it instead of doing what I said. So fun
uh,
state.
fun state.
You can already dismember that state because you need to grab the socket.
Let's see. Goals. They take the state, right? That means, yeah. That means.
Forgot to push this trash. Yeah, nothing here to talk about. Turn off.
Okay, so there we have it.
Um,
Yeah, but yeah, you need to put the equals. Yeah, that's good. And now we need to do a send, right? Uh,
right. We need to do gen TCP send.
sock. I have it here. I have it here.
And then some data.
Yeah, but then we're gonna have to make a function called serialize that you're gonna pass the query as an argument. And for now, it's just a dummy function. It is identity, for example. We don't need it to have it implemented properly right now.
Yeah, the hassle of doing the same thing in multiple computers is having to sync Git between them.
Just return query, Marinho. We're gonna do dummy tests with this. It's not gonna be really a real Sakura thing for now. And just call serialize on the query. But that's the thing. I think we needed to do a wait because we need to wait for the response essentially. After that, after sending.
Yeah, we kind of do. And this needs to return. Let's see, delay, net. Which primitives do we have for? I guess we would have to build the disjunction ourselves, maybe.
Wait, what is the question? What do we need to return?
We need to return a string, which is a disjunction of all of the possible query results. And just seeing if there's some convenient way to do that,
But the
other
query
than
result was always going to be single right now. There aren't many results in there. And there's another problem. After we need also to make the system of asking for a session. Remember? I think
yeah, we do.
I think ask should be a function with two aritays. One where you send the session and the query, and another one where you just send the query. If you just send the query, we do the path of asking for a new session. And you have to save that in the state. If you send the session as an argument, then we use that session. We have to send that session as well.
We don't have to save it in the state, actually,
But how are we gonna keep it if we have to backtrack?
because this function here is a goal. It returns a string.
Sure, but that still doesn't answer my question, I think. How are we
If
gonna
we
save which session we were in?
if we make the session here, we can just capture it in this closure, and then it will be available for the entire string that we're returning.
Hmm. Okay, but then we have to verify if you already have a session, right?
Do we?
Oh yeah, because if you're doing an ask, how do you know which session it is?
Mm, well, this ask here needs to coordinate with Sakura to create a session.
Exactly, but if you already have one, there are two cases in my head. A case where you're doing an ask. But that cannot be the case, right? Because every single backtracking thing is always a single ask, right?
Yeah.
I see. I see. That was my confusion.
No risk of confusion.
Okay, but let's do it then.
Well, we need to somehow create, let's call it, yeah, create session. This will have to take a socket. And right now, let's just return a dummy value.
An atom dummy. That's it. And put it to do there.
So basically,
You pass. You grab the session. Session equals.
well, this will be a socket operation, so it could fail, right? So this should really be okay in dummy,
I agree.
right?
Oh no, but this should be a case. This should be a case. Because otherwise the error is gonna be phenomenally bad to read.
create session using the socket off. Okay, session, and then we do something. And if we have an error, for now we just error out.
Yeah, we're just gonna explode.
Oops.
But this is already prepared later for better reporting. And then we do the TCP thing. Okay, we have a session. So in my opinion, the serialize function should receive the session as well, because that needs to be baked in, right? Or do you
The
prefer doing
serialize.
the serialization of only the query and then we combine the session?
When I do a TCP send on Erlang, we have to send the entire thing at once, right?
I believe so. Erlang. Let me double check that.
Accept, close, connect,
Yeah, pretty much.
listen, receive, send. Send a packet on a socket. Send a packet on a socket. Okay. So yeah, we would have to do something like let's rename this to raw query. And then the query that we actually send is serialize of raw query.
Yeah, but we
And
need
then
to
we
put
do
the session as well baked in. That was why I was suggesting to put the session as an argument to serialize, because we need to also send the session. We can do it that in the serialize function or outside of the serialize function. What's your mood right now?
We should probably make that separate, I think.
Okay.
It takes a session. This takes serialized. Actually, this takes a serialized. Does it? Oh, I guess that will depend on what Magenta does on the back end.
What do you mean?
Let's just return the serialized query for now and say to do. And we do with session. Oops.
Session comes as the first argument. Okay, and now we need to do a receive. Which, by the way, we go back to the Karuta.url. We forgot to put a configuration in there. We need also to receive the timeout setting. For this particular case, yeah, we need to have a timeout configuration. They should be configurable via the db config. So just go back to the, yeah, go in the start there and destruct a db timeout and put it in the db config, and that's it.
This is mildly annoying because if we do this here, then we're gonna require all 3 keys. Always. Is that what we want?
No, timeout should be optional, even though like no production environment will not use timeouts. But it should be optional in my opinion.
Okay, so should we
Maps
have a
get.
default value?
Yeah, I think we should have a default value actually.
Okay, what should be the default?
The same one that Cowboy uses, which I think is a
Which is
minute.
a minute. Okay. Send packet.
There is no timeout functionality for the send. It is even written in the documentation. There is
I
no
think you make
send
that on the socket, right?
exactly, but there is a timeout on the receive, and that's where we're gonna put it in the ask function. And there's also a timeout for connection. Like there's a lot of timeouts. Timeout for receive, timeout to send, timeout to connect. Multiple timeouts.
Specifies a connect timeout in milliseconds. Okay. So a minute would be timeout equals maps get from the config. The map comes first, right?
Almost sure.
No, the key goes first for some stupid reason.
I think this is not gonna be a value. This is probably gonna be a map. And here's my reasoning. Let's put a timeout map for all of the three cases: connect, send, and receive. And let's put a default value of all of those to be the same right here. What do you say?
A map.
Yeah, it's a
You
timeout
want
map.
you want to control them separately then?
Yeah, exactly. And then in the project directive, when you're configuring Sakura, you're going to be able to tell which times for each one of those. Because connect receives a timeout. Receive
Yes.
receives a timeout. And send doesn't receive a timeout, but there is a specific portion of the documentation saying that there are examples of timeouts later.
Yeah, no, it's based on the option on the socket.
Exactly. So I think that because we have three kinds of timeouts, we can just easily make a timeout map and put default values for all of them, but this is already preparing the grounds for when we make the project directive that allows you to put that configuration yourself. What do you say?
Okay. In that case, I think it actually makes more sense to say db time out, which is a timeout map.
No, but then we are obligating you to provide the map. You see?
And I'm okay with that because that map may be empty.
Oh, so okay, but we're gonna have to remember to send them an empty map in that case. Okay, so in here, you just grab the timeout map on, yes. No, this is the connect timeout, not the send one.
What should be the default for sending?
This is not a sending, this is connect.
Well, there are three timeouts, right?
No, yeah, there are three timeouts, but we're not gonna use the receive and the send in this scope. We're only gonna do it in the ask function. So we're only gonna get the connect one. The default should be a minute. Which is
Okay,
60,000.
so
It's the fourth argument in the connect function.
connect.
There we go. Now go to the ask function, and we can just grab the... Yeah, you need to put the timeouts maps back here. Yeah, and then in the ask function, we do it for the receive and for the send as well. Like I know why I'm being like, oh, is this necessary right now? It's not fat arrow, is column equals. It's not really necessary. It's just easy to add it though.
Let's see. So you guys are doing ask, which is a
Yeah,
function.
this
Well,
function will be the function responsible for actually doing grabbing a query, a raw query in our system,
mhm.
serializing to S expressions, dispatching to the socket to you, and we're gonna do a block receive, waiting for the answer.
Is there an Erlang library to generate S expressions already? Let me see.
There might be, but I don't know. Maybe there's a library that we can reuse from LFE.
Mm,
That would be
that's
poggers.
that would be cool. Yes. Or just pipe to LFE and then just handle things there. Erlang.
Maybe we should rewrite the runtime in LFE. That would be kind of fun.
I think
Okay,
it's hard now, isn't it? You guys can do
because
this.
this is very simple stuff. We're not requiring a lot. It's just pattern matching all the way and things like that. Anyway, so the receive is the receive 3 version, Marin.
1 second. I'm pretty sure we need to pass an extra option when we have a timeout for
Yeah,
the
for the send we
send,
do. For the send we do.
but it's on the connect, right?
There is no send should call with a timeout option. Use socket option send timeout if timeouts are desired. Well, I guess you were right. We need to do this in the bootstrap. I was wrong.
Ah, look at this. LFE contains a Lisp scanner and parser.
I mean, it had an issue, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Kinda
yes, but
needs
like
you.
the
Needs you.
guy the guy said, yeah, just use the LFE scan, LFE parse. Done.
Packet here, yeah.
Yeah, so that's all we need to do in the
So is
bootstrap.
what's the default that Cowboy uses for this?
I have no
Is it
idea.
also?
I have no idea. I only remember
What's the
this
what
the 1 minute
combo
for the
uses?
connect because
Oh, the
LFE, right?
timeout.
Because of Mahjong. We spent so much time debugging this shit.
Let's say 5 seconds is the default, I guess.
Other people are telling you to use Yasese and Bison. Nuns. Why not?
No, instead of X expressions, you mean?
Yes, like to do it in Erlang, right? You just use the parser and the lexer from Erlang. That sounds like a miserable experience.
Yeah, but I really think we should consider. Like I was kind of joking before, but I think that because this is so simple, maybe we should rewrite this in LFE. Because as we all learned, Lisps are the kings for if you're going to do dynamic anyway.
Well, then we'd have to translate. I guess we don't necessarily have to translate Karuta, but then we'll have two languages on the
No,
runtime.
no, we would translate all of it because this is what 300 lines of code. Not even.
Not even.
Like we can do this in an any of us can do this in an afternoon. Okay, but
Hmm.
that's a separate issue. That's an issue for later. Let's go to the receive now. Let's do the receive on the ask function. I have the example here.
Yeah, I'm almost done with this trash. I'm trying to refactor this code.
Uh,
Receive timeout equals. We can just do this. Have to quote it. We should do 5 seconds here as well, right?
sure, that works.
Man,
Why do
did
you
the
have?
NVIDIA...
Go
No,
on.
go,
No, no,
Lance.
no. I was
No,
about to
I'm
ask
just...
something dumb.
Well, I was just... I just... Something I came up with on the news right now. And apparently the NVIDIA CEO, Jensen
We're
Huang...
still recording, by the way.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
But he said if you're not spending 250,000 of your 500, like half a million per year salary in tokens, then you are doing something wrong. Like, what the heck is wrong with these people, man?
That's very bad advice. Do not
That's
do that. Do not do that.
that's that's like what? Go to a casino. I don't know. That's probably you're probably gonna make more money there.
Okay, so there are two ways of using the receive. We're gonna do the simplest way for now. So it's essentially do a case on the receive, and that's it, Marin.
Receive a packet. Uh,
Okay. Yeah, apparently there is no S expressions library.
In
It's
Erlang
kind
or
of
in
sad.
LFE?
I mean, I can't find on Erlang.
Yeah. Yeah,
if
and then
length is 0, all available bytes are returned. Okay.
Oh, there's one in C if you want to do FFI. Then.
no, you do a case on the receive, Marin. So case GNTCP receive.
We actually should do a case on the send as well, if we're going to be thorough.
Oh, the send can fail, right?
It can fail, yes.
Uh, can you use the maybe expression thing? Because this is gonna look ugly as fuck in a minute.
I mean, we could.
I think we should. So let's just use the maybe. Put a maybe expression in the block of the OK. No, that also works, doing the maybe in the beginning. That also does work.
No, because then we can just do like maybe. Actually, this is backwards, right?
Yeah, it is backwards.
Okay, session question mark equals. Then we do this. Then we do okay question mark equals here.
And there's another OK for the receive. So it's OK and data.
Okay, data question mark.
Question mark equals. And then you're gonna do a receive socket 0 and a receive timeout. Um, deserialize the data, which can also can fail in theory.
We're gonna need to deserialize the data.
Yeah. And now you understand why I didn't want to do this in Erlang, right? Because if this was OCaml, we could just use the same PPX as my get, and these would be trivial.
Well, tough luck. This needs to happen at runtime.
Cool. Now, okay, so just return. Yeah, grab the deserialized data. So okay, deserialized data on the calling deserialize function question mark operator as well.
Okay, so this is the raw data. Great game, by the way.
Never played it.
Which one?
Question mark equals
Question mark. Why question mark equals?
because deserialization can fail.
How?
Well, we don't know. Are we trusting Magetta forever?
Yes.
And now we need to make the stream that we were talking about with the data that we just deserialized.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, put the else branch of the maybe though, which is gonna be just throwing the error exception. Just grab the line 35 there. No. Grab the line 35.
35.
Yeah, and just put it in there. In the entirety of it. Yeah. Can remove the case now. Bye. This is so much better, isn't it? Look at it. So much better.
I wish I had a way to format Erlang code.
Yeah. Okay, now we need to make the stream, and this is it. How are we making streams of the other guys in the Karuta URL?
We're not. Karuta just gives you the primitives, and the compiler arranges for them to be used correctly.
Okay, but how can we do what the compiler does by hand then?
We would have to do a disjunction by hand, I think. Oops, that's not what I meant to do.
Aren't we already doing that with some of our built-ins, such as like plus or naturals or whatever? We have some built-ins, and I
We
remember
kinda
doing
are.
this by hand. Yeah, something like that, isn't it?
Finally.
We kinda are. Actually, yeah, there's something else we need here other than the raw query, which is we need a map from the tuple labels that we expect to get back from the backend to the variables that we want to bind them to. So let's call it pattern, I guess.
I would call it label bindings, but I don't know. Because pattern doesn't give me the understanding of what you said.
Okay, let me merge this
Okay, so
experiment.
now we need to do a lookup on the deserialized data. Oh, we're missing an end, by the way. Don't forget it. There's a missing end of the fun.
Right.
We need to do a lookup on the data using the label bindings, don't we?
A lookup? No, actually.
Not a lookup. Okay,
We
so
need to unify the label. We need to unify the label bindings with the data.
Oh, we're gonna do this now? I thought this would be done via the other guys in Karuta.url. Okay, I guess.
My name is Brutal.
Okay, if that's the case, isn't it a matter of doing merge of the label bindings with the data deserialized? Some sort of merge, not a naive one.
I guess we do have something like this. Are we
And you
using this
did call
anywhere?
it pattern.
Well, yes, because in this case, this is not necessarily a map. This is an arbitrary pattern.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
see?
yeah, okay. Well, but is the head of who? Oh, is the head of results. So this is okay. We can just call this then. What are we doing? Isn't it?
Yeah, I have to call merge results. We have the stream.
Do we? That's the one that I don't think we have. We have all the other ones. We have the pattern and we have the results, but we don't have the stream. Here's a question. Are we gonna call this already having a stream? Can't we just pass the stream as an argument to the ask function?
Uh, can't we just do that? I don't think so.
Okay.
This is being exported here. This is defined here. It calls itself recursively.
So this is intended to be used from the REPL.
No, actually, I think I wrote this intending to use it later for, well, now actually. But
That's so funny.
Okay. Let me pull this trash.
I wrote this to be used for the Sakura portion. I was a visionary, and I got it
but
here. We got it.
Yeah, there's the issue that this takes a stream and ask returns a goal, which takes a state and returns a stream. So
And the code looks bigger, but it's way more well separated now.
Great.
Okay, I don't like this cock experiment I merged, but whatever. I'll remove that later.
Okay, so there is a problem with composition here, right, Marin? That's what your head is thinking right now.
yeah,
Because merge results expects a stream, but we don't have one.
it expects a string and we don't have one.
Can we create one? Isn't it delay a way to create a stream?
Not quite.
Like, we were already creating streams before. I just don't remember how we were doing that. If you grab a goal and pass it to delay, isn't that turning it to a stream?
No, it isn't actually.
I see.
Because a goal is a function that takes a state and returns a stream of results, but Erlang doesn't have any kind of laziness primitive. So delay is just a way to say, okay, I have a goal, I want to make it lazy, so here's
You
what I
wrap it
do.
in functions, yeah. Well, you wrap it with a single extra function because the function receiving the state is mandatory anyway. Okay, but how were we doing this before? How were we creating streams before? You said the compiler was doing such, right?
Yeah, it kind of uses a bunch of those primitives directly.
Yeah, but
Can we do
let's just call
bind?
them directly then. Who is calling bind? He receives a stream. Let's see who calls bind then.
Grep.
Okay, that was kind of funny. Um,
Yeah, no, we don't call it directly either, because this is expected to be used by the output of the compiler.
okay, so how do we create a stream in the compiler then? We need to replicate whatever we do there.
Maybe match. This is not it. This is not it. This is not it. Actually, the compiler doesn't call bind directly. It calls disjoint, or dis, I guess is the name. And conj. Because
No,
these are
but
more convenient for...
yeah, but those are not receiving. Wait, are those goals a stream? A stream?
No, it's a list. So it must be finite. That's the issue.
But we are creating streams in the Erlang side then. Do you agree? If the compiler calls conj and dig, and we know they are calling bind at some point, that means that we are creating streams.
The problem is that if ask is going to be a function that returns a goal doesn't take a stream as an argument.
It takes a state as an argument, right?
It takes a state as an argument.
Okay, so
It's
should it
monadic.
return a goal then? Let's start asking ourselves where ask is going to participate in the composition of which functions. I think that's what we should do.
It will probably be inside of a conjunction, right? Because the body of a predicate in general is a conjunction.
I agree. So, but where are you aiming to plug ask in this body here?
Well,
if you could.
it doesn't
randomly
matter.
could.
It doesn't matter where it goes. Everything that conj receives must be a goal.
That's not what I asked. Mageta, what are you saying?
No, I was just going to say, if I need you to try to run the stuff, so if you can clone both RAPLs and just like let it build on the background while I work, because it will take a bit because of Rust.
Because of Rust.
I just want you to be able to. I just want you to be able to run so you can test in the future. See, like I think I got it working with the envelopes.
Okay, it's Sakura, and the other one is the Explorer, right?
Yeah, both of them. And the Explorer is basically a nice way to see, right? So
Yeah, this is the beaver, but for us.
yes, it's more like PSQL, I would say. Don't even look at the code. It's not made by me. Just saying.
Well, we can do this later. Let's finish the conversation I was having with Marinho. So, Marinho, my question is that it matters where we're gonna plug it because we're gonna call the ask function inside the conj. Agree?
Yes.
And what do we have at our disposal in a conj? We have an element, we have the accumulator, and we have the goals. So we need to pass one of those three to ask. Agree? And
No,
the
no, no, no,
return
no,
type
no,
of
no,
ask
no,
needs to
no, no, no.
respect what we already have.
No, no, no. The ask is going to be an element, Lemus.
Okay, but where is going to plug in the body of this lambda?
Look, we have a body of a predicate, which is a list of goals wrapped in a conj. This is a
Okay,
fold, so it's going
okay.
to take each element, and one of them is going to be the ask that we care about, and it's going to call the binary version of conj, which calls
Ah,
bind.
wait. So you're not planning on calling ask at all. You're planning on compiling an ask.
Yes.
Ah, okay. That is the difference. Okay, that was my confusion. You're not planning to call it at all. I see.
Yeah, we have to call it a runtime because it does runtime things.
No, no, but when I said call it, I said literally call it. You're gonna compile one, not call it.
Well, we're going to compile a call to it. The call is going to take the query as an argument, which the compiler is going to put there. It's going to return a goal, which is going to be passed to conj to construct a conjunction.
I see what you're saying. So essentially, the ask is gonna be the okay. So that's gonna be generated by OCaml. We're not gonna see it in the Erlang code. So it needs to respect whatever delay says, and delay says that this needs to be a goal, isn't it?
Hmm.
A delayed goal, I guess. So it needs to receive a state and return a string. That's why.
I wonder, can we change merge results to receive an environment and be monadic?
Well, nothing forbids us, given that this is not being used by anybody.
Because this is using bind, but then we don't need the bind, we can just call EQ directly here. And then the recursive call just receives the well, this is gonna need to be delayed, I guess, but
No, but you can change
yeah,
anything about merge results, man. So just change it.
yeah. So this is gonna take a state, then we're gonna pull a result if we have one. This doesn't need to do the bind anymore, so we do this. But now this needs to be this needs to be delayed.
I noticed that you're not using state for anything. Is that a problem?
And we're not using state for anything. EQ should take. Hmm. Oh, M plus is a goal, so actually
You can apply state to it.
we need to apply states to it. Yeah.
Okay, so let's call this in the Sakura code. Which brings the question. Yeah, no, this is fine. Yeah, this is actually fine if you're gonna just compile it.
Yeah, but we can't just do this, unfortunately. This doesn't work in the Erlang syntax for some reason, so
That's kind of cringe.
Yeah, we have to do this, unfortunately.
Okay, let's call this. Is the name of this function correct? Merge results.
Well, yes, because it's going to... Not quite, because this takes a string of results, which can be produced arbitrarily. It's going to merge it into the state to produce... like this is an M plus, so it's actually going to do the same state to each possible result, essentially.
Yeah, I remember that.
Um, but the thing that we're merging with the results into is not really visible anywhere. So yeah, this is a bad name now.
What about bind results?
Bind results.
Because that's essentially what the EQ is doing there, isn't it?
EQ. Kinda.
So I would just call this bind results. And don't forget to change the recursive call. Okay, I think we just need to call this now inside the Sakura and see what happens.
And this takes 2 arguments now. Pattern results. Sakura.
So you essentially do a tail call of bind results, passing the data as the pattern, no, as the results, and the label bindings as the pattern, which we probably should rename label bindings to pattern at this point to be consistent. And now you just tail call that, no? Done.
I think this should actually be flipped.
Sure.
Let's see. So we receive a timeout. We get the received timeout. We create a session. We serialize the raw query.
Yeah.
We send it to the socket over to Sakura.
We wait.
We get the response.
To get the response.
We deserialize.
And then these should be the results of the bind results, the data, right? Maybe we should even call it results on the left hand side.
Yeah, this just receives a single message though. So
What's the problem?
yeah, this is one value. This is not a stream of values.
No, yeah, it's not a lazy list. It's a single value because of the poking, remember? If you want more, you need to ask again. I guess that means that we can simplify the bind results to be a singleton instead of using like M plus.
Get response. This is going to take a socket and a session.
I think we're doing. We are also doing. We are using OCaml conventions for the function names using snake case, but I think it should be camel case in Erlang.
No, Lemos, it's actually snake case in Erlang.
Oh, it's only camel case for variable, right? Right.
It's because variables, they follow the Prolog convention, so they must have an uppercase beginning here.
Yeah, never mind. You're right. It is
then
also snake case.
Yeah, and because you already have this uppercase here, then well, it's just nicer to do camel case, actually Pascal case here. Although personally, I would actually prefer to do this, but this is not idiomatic for some reason.
I would not prefer to do that. Anyway, so what's your plan with get response?
Yeah, we kind of need to abstract a little bit over the the TCP receive because we only establish the session once per query, right?
Yeah.
But that means in order to make a stream of of all the results, we need to call this thing repeatedly, right?
In order to make a stream, you need to call this repeatedly. But only if necessary. You need to call it repeatedly lazily, right? Do you agree?
Well, yes.
Unbound constructor. Kill me. I think it just. It's